Welcome to the Cabral Concept, where board-certified naturopath and integrative health practitioner Dr. Stephen Cabral shares how he was diagnosed at the age of 17 with a life-altering illness and given no hope for recovery. It was only after studying and traveling all over the world did he discover how to combine ancient Ayurvedic healing practices with state-of-the-art naturopathic and functional medicine to fully rebalance the body and re-energize it with life. It's time to discover how to get well, lose weight, and finally feel alive again. And now, here's your host, Dr. Stephen Cabral.
Welcome back, everyone. We're here today with episode 2363 of the Cabral Concept. Head on over to stephencabral.com/2363 for all of the research today, because we're going over a very controversial topic, and that is the known dangers of wireless AirPods. Now, it's not just Apple that makes these particular devices. Any Bluetooth or receiver that is actually inside the ear is what we're going to be talking about here today. So just keep in mind, as technology progresses, there will be more and more devices that, although they may look amazing and they may actually function to such a high level as well, that we sometimes bypass the known dangers that are already out there. This one now has been known about for over a decade. So I want to share that with you today. A lot of people ask, on my podcast, when I do all my Zooms, why I use all these wired headsets. And it's not that I'm a conspiracy theorist or anything like that. I go by the science. That's literally what I go by. And because of that, sometimes I have to give up some of the more comfortable things in life, like wearing a pair of wireless headphones while I'm exercising or working out would be way better than me having to worry about hitting a dumbbell or a weight along with this wired headset. So I'm going to give you a couple alternatives today if you do want to stick with a wireless-based device. But more than that, what I really want to share with you is that we know the risk that we're putting ourselves and our children at every single day while we're wearing these wireless AirPods. So I'll keep saying AirPods today, but they're really just wireless headphones. Just think of it like that. And they are more and more dangerous the more they go inside your ear. And the younger the person is that's wearing them, the more danger it is to them. So let's go over this right now. Just instead of speculating, let's actually give you what is going on with these particular studies. And why this is so important is because it's not new research. It's actually already been done. It's been out there for quite some time. So let me just share this with you. In 2011, the World Health Organization, International Agency for Research on Cancer, advised that electromagnetic radiation from wireless devices constitutes a possible human carcinogen. All right, what does that mean? It means that a wireless device used on or near a human being could potentially cause cancer. When you see carcinogen, think cancer, okay? So how does it happen? Well, on ionizing radiation, including extremely low frequency fields, ELFs, called ELFs, used for electricity and radio frequency radiation, which is RFR, used in wireless communications. This would include the devices that we know them as, which is Wi-Fi, cellular data, or Bluetooth. And all of these things are obviously connected to smartphones. So originally, they tested this with animals, and what they found was that a cell phone or something held close to the head or specifically on the head actually can lead to brain tumors and other types of cancer. We know far more about it now. So why does this matter? Well, here's why. What they found was that an inch difference, so obviously if you're watching this on video, or hopefully you can watch it right on my website or right on YouTube. I'm pointed basically an inch away from my head. Let me grab my cell phone. And actually, this is my previous cell phone. So I'm holding about an inch away from my head. All right. So believe it or not, an inch away from my head was proven to be dramatically safer than touching my head. If the phone was within millimeters of touching your head, it became that much more dangerous. And if the actual phone was touching the head, that was the greatest likelihood of some type of cancer-based event. Now, let's flash forward to a device like these headphones. And I have mine right here, which are not wireless, but they're the same AirPod. They look exactly the same, except they have the wire. So now I'm taking this AirPod and I'm actually inserting it, about a half an inch into my ear canal on each side. And the crazy thing is that this acts as a receiver from your phone. So instead of you holding the phone to your head, now you're always holding the phone to your head, but now hands-free, right? That's the benefit. But instead of the phone actually being held to your head, it's held inside your head. That is the more dangerous part. So now if you look, this is probably not a half an inch, but pretty close. It's greater than a quarter of an inch. So it's certainly not touching. It's actually inside of my ear canal, that much closer to my brain. And it actually has more of a frequency as it goes between both AirPods. And I'll talk about that in just a moment, which makes it even more dangerous. So what compounds it as well is the amount of time now. So before you might be on your phone, and you might talk for 10-minute conversation or so, or 5 minutes or 20 minutes, whatever it might be. But people are now wearing these wireless AirPods during their 1-hour workout or all day long. They just never take them out. And again, one more thing that compounds this, and I'll start to get more into the data in just a minute, is that this wireless AirPod sends a frequency to this wireless AirPod, and they actually communicate and talk back and forth. Well, how do you think that they're going and communicating back and forth through these frequencies? It's not over and around your skull and head. It's actually directly through your brain. So it's going directly through your skull, through the brain, and communicating back and forth with each one of these receivers. So I'll come full circle on that in just a moment. But the ill effects were found on different types of radiation that resulted in cancer in animals. So much so that this is a lot of studies now, many of them done in Europe, not in the United States. And 250 reputable scientists from 40 countries around the world signed a petition and sent it in to the World Health Organization and the UN. They were worried, and they saw the dangers and they saw the studies on radio wave radiation, and they saw it on potentially causing cancer. And I have all of this right here. I'm going to link it up for you so you can actually read their appeal. It's pretty interesting. And again, it's all out there for people to read. So I'll link all of this up at stephencabral.com/2363. And so this was called the International Appeal. Scientists call for protection from non-ionizing electromagnetic field exposure. All right. So EMFs. I talked about this in my book, The Rain Barrel Effect. This is one of the top 10 toxins that I talked about. This is one of them. And all of their potential effects. So this is what they wrote. Collectively, we request that children and pregnant women be protected. It's even more dangerous for pregnant women. I'll get to that in just a moment. And children. They are asking for guidelines and regulatory standards to be strengthened to make these devices safer, that manufacturers be encouraged to develop safer technology. Utilities responsible for the generation, transmission, distribution, and monitoring of electricity maintain adequate power, quality, and ensure proper electrical wiring to minimize harmful ground current, meaning the currents that are going into the brain. And these, by the way, are obviously not grounded if you're not using anything wireless. The public should be fully informed about potential health risks from electromagnetic energy and taught harm reduction strategies. Medical professionals be educated about the biological effects of electromagnetic energy and be provided training on treatment of patients with the EMF sensitivity. Governments fund training and research on electromagnetic fields and health that is independent of industry and mandate industry cooperations with researchers. There's just two more. Media disclose experts' financial relationships with industry when citing their opinions regarding health and safety aspects of EMF emitting technologies, and safe zones, which are radiation-free areas, be established. This is really important because not everybody wants to be in the middle of a electromagnetic soup, right? As you walk around, not everybody wants to be bombarded with sensors when they walk in a store, or everything from the fluorescent lights to the sensors to the EMFs to the 4G to the 5G to all of these different things, which collectively really can do a number on the body over time. And it's important because you can't believe every single research study that you see and read, because many of them are funded by the industry itself, right? So believe me, I've done enough research now where I realize that you can pretty much prove anything you want to your side, right? So that's the danger. So I always ask, why is this research being done, and who's actually doing the research? So I'm going to do just 2 more points, one with children, one with pregnant women. Let's do pregnant first. So prenatal and postnatal exposure to cell phone use and behavioral problems in children. So what they found, and this was done over, pregnancy reached 7 years old. Let me get this for you right here. All right. So in 2008, researchers conducted a study of 13,000 children with behavioral problems. And they asked their mothers essentially to the extent of the cell phone use during and after pregnancy. So the researchers were able to look at a wide scope of people and look for a number of factors to be able to eliminate those outliers. And they found that there was an 80% higher tendency for children to have behavioral, emotional, and hyperactive behaviors after excessive pre- and postnatal cell phone exposure. So really, really interesting there. And there was a lot of statements around that. But you might say, well, what am I supposed to be looking with? Which is, I think, a very good question. So I'm going to share with you some of the most common symptoms in both children and adults. So symptoms seem to be problem focusing. So what you might call ADD or ADHD, or executive functioning disorder. We like to put a lot of labels on children and adults as well. Does not be able to finish a task very well, misses deadlines, very easily distracted. They're forgetful. Their short-term memory seems to be a little bit lost. They're easily distracted. I think I just read that. Maybe my cell phone exposure has been a bit high here. And they avoid a lot of the tasks that would be more detailed in nature. And so this is important to look for. Now, does this mean that anyone with those particular symptoms has had cell phone or major EMF exposure? No, not necessarily. But it's at least something worth looking at, because certainly these are all symptoms of someone potentially under a higher amount of stress. And EMF is one stressor on the body. All right. So really, really important that we look at that. The other to note was that children exposed to EMFs seem to be far more sensitive, not in terms of just the symptoms that I shared with you, but actually potentially as a form of cancer. So really important that we don't completely just dismiss this, right? That we start to just think about it, because more and more children that I see, not necessarily as younger than 10 or so, but I see teenagers. I see 12, 13, and to 18-year-olds in high school. So most likely they didn't buy them. Their parents may have bought them for them, actually wearing these AirPods. And again, I don't think the parents, of course, trying to do any harm. They just don't know that this actually exists out there. So a couple more studies on ADHD. EMF radiation is said to generate inward calcium, which leaks basically into the brain. So here's what can happen. So the EMFs can pull calcium from other tissues. It can leak into the brain, and it can actually affect the brain's neurons, which create memory, which are used for everything from movement to thinking, etc. So the leakage stimulates hyperactivity, making one less capable of concentrating on tasks. And that's why I just shared with you some of those symptoms as well. This one was also by Dr. Goldsworthy and talked about the leakage of the cells of the peripheral nervous system. So that's basic. The peripheral nervous system is you taking in stimulus from the environment. And it says in adults, it makes them send false signals to the brain, which results in symptoms of electromagnetic hypersensitivity. So before, we used to dismiss anything like even chronic fatigue or fibromyalgia or anything like that, like, oh, it's all in your head. No, it's not. We know that. And we also know that EMF sensitivity or hypersensitivity is not all in your head either. It's not. So we really, if you're a practitioner, listen to this show, you do need to take into account that those people, your clients or patients that are the most sensitive, are most likely sensitive to EMFs as well. And go back. What I'll do is I'll just make it easy for you. Just head on over to stephencabral.com/2363. I'll link up my previous EMF shows. I'll teach you how to EMF proof your bedroom, which is the most important part. So at least 8 hours a night, no EMFs at all in the bedroom. All right. I have a couple guest podcast episodes with great guest experts too on this. So let me just finish the study. Further exposure could then tip those sensitive over the edge into full symptoms of electromagnetic intolerance. And that's basically by degree, right? It's going from like tendinitis to tendinosis, right? So IBS, irritable bowel syndrome, to irritable bowel disease. It's just taking something that's like symptomatic at the moment to then making it chronic. And now we just put it at intolerance or disease, right? A dis-ease of the body and imbalance of the body. All right, two more. So the last one is this, the second last one is this, early dementia and Alzheimer's. So this calcium that can leak, right, can be pulled in and leak into those neurons, can affect the neurons, and it can start to disrupt the junction barriers of the body. And this also includes basically leaky brain, or it includes increasing inflammation in the brain. So these barriers, called the blood-brain barrier, that's one of them, typically keeps harmful things out. It keeps heavy metals out, well, as much as it can. There's certainly aluminum and others can seep into the brain. Potential pathogens, even things like Lyme, can start to affect the brain. So I think this is really important, that it actually breaks down one of our main defenses in that blood-brain barrier. All right, the last one, which is, I think, really common. I just see this in people so much in my practice, and it's not the only reason why, but AirPods, I do think, is increasing the sensitivity of tinnitus. Tinnitus is essentially ringing in the ears. It does affect like 2 out of every 10 people, so about 20% of all people. Now, it's not the only reason why. I mean, people can have dysregulated blood sugar. They can have overall inflammation in any part of their body. They can have carotid artery issues. They can be low in certain B vitamins like B6, folate, B12, methylcobalamin. So there's certainly magnesium. There's certainly other reasons why people have tinnitus. You can just go to stevencabral.com/podcast, type in tinnitus, 2 N's, and you'll be able to find those shows as well. But for sure, we're seeing a rise in tinnitus-based cases with more and more people using Bluetooth headphone devices such as AirPods. And by the way, like, I'm the biggest supporter of like Apple products out there. Always have like the latest iPhone. I've got a MacBook Pro. I have an Apple Watch. Like, I'm an enjoyer and user of Apple-based products. So I'm not coming down on Apple. Just keep in mind, technology is always going to keep pushing and pushing the envelope, all right? So I'm not coming down on them. What I'm saying is there are dangers. There's danger to all of these wireless-based devices. There really are. And so if we think about it, we have to understand our overall exposure. So if you're someone that loves AirPods because you can't imagine going for a run with a wired device, like, I totally understand you there. It is so much easier if you were to do that. I get it. But maybe if you do it then for your run, you won't use it all day long. Like, you could do a Zoom call by, plugging this into your computer or phone. Like, that's not that bad, right? You could do regular calls at your desk without using those AirPods. When you're walking around, you might be able to use a wired-based device. They also make headphones that are called Air Tubes. They just don't stick in my ears, which is why I don't use them. But Air Tubes actually, and I'll probably do a product review on them, allow the vibration just to actually go from here, so about a foot below, all the way up, instead of actually being wired in the ear, which is even better. But again, I haven't found a pair yet that can that stay in my ears for whatever reason. That is that. I mean, the goal is to use those AirPods then as infrequently as possible, or if you can do it, you'll use them as little as possible. Now, I have one more piece to this. So in the future, and the funny thing is, this is my iPhone 11. If you're watching this on video, I have an iPhone 13 Pro, which I love, that has broken to me twice, though. Luckily, again, I think they're an overall good company. They replaced it. Very nice of them. And the thing is, eventually, this port on the bottom of the phone will not accept a headphone. So I'm telling you right now, in probably 2 years from now, I can't predict the future, but I would say within a couple more iPhones, they will not have any more wired-based devices. It will be completely self-contained as one device. And so they will force people to use then their AirPods. I'm guaranteeing that this happens. So at that point now, I have to decide, because all cell phones will follow Apple. They're the biggest out there. They're literally, I think it's 40% market share. So that means they literally have 4 of every 10 people that have a cell phone, at least in the US, have an Apple. And then it's split between all the others. It might even be 60. Anyway, I can't remember that specifically. But no matter what, that's where it's going. So when that happens, I've already told myself that I'm not going to switch. I'll get the latest cell phone, and then that has a wired device. But then when it can't work anymore, because we all know that they eventually the cell phones just don't work. So after that point, they will make wired-based headphones, because they make them right there, where the receiver is not inside your head. The receiver actually dangles closer down, further away from the body, that you can actually flip to the back. Bose makes one right now. I believe Beats makes one right now. So they're wired to a receiver, which hangs about 8 inches or so below. Now, it's still against your chest or it's still against your back, but better than it being actually inside of your brain, essentially inside of your head. Much better to do it that way. And again, I'm still hoping I'll be using the wired-based devices. Yes, it's not as convenient, but as I said before, it's always better to be safe than sorry. Will all of these because again, here's the 4 main dangers. Increased cancer risk, genetic DNA damage has been shown with all EMFs, neurological-based disorders, potential dementia and Alzheimer's, learning disorders as well. So my goal is just not to put myself in harm's way. I've already come from a place of being sick in the past. I don't want to go back there. So all I'm trying to do is position myself to be as healthy and as happy as possible. And if I have to deal with the inconvenience of a wired headset, that's just what I choose to do. Now, it doesn't mean that it's the right choice for you, but I did want to bring this information to you so that you can make the most informed decision for you and your family. Thanks so much for tuning in today. As always, please do feel free to share the show with anyone you believe it could serve. Are you ready to heal yourself and then go on to heal others? If so, the Integrative Health Practitioner Institute can help you discover proven functional medicine protocols that blend the best of 7 different healing disciplines from around the world. I personally share with you the exact handouts and protocols I use in my private practice that enable people to get well, lose the weight, and live longer, stronger. I want to pass this information on to the next generation of health coaches, and that is exactly why I created IHP. We are the future of the health coaching industry, and the skills and knowledge you will learn will make you an in-demand certified health coach anywhere in the world. Although we have many medical professionals taking the IHP certifications, no experience is necessary, and half our members have no previous health certifications. At the Integrative Health Practitioner Institute, our motto is a health coach in every home. Our goal is that you take this knowledge and then share it with family, friends, loved ones, your community, or in a practice where you create a career you love and can be proud of. The global IHP community is filled with some of the most kind and caring people in the world, and we can't wait to welcome you into our world soon. For more information or to set up a discovery call with one of our IHP Health Coach graduates, simply head over to integrativehealthpractitioner.org.